In the news this week, monkeypox and the risk of transmission. What should Western Australians be aware of? An exclusive Q&A with Dr. Andrew Miller.
Prime Minister Albanese comes to Perth following Labor's election victory. Daycare centres on notice to ensure safety after child burn incidents. And later, Dr. Mark Duncan-Smith's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loom and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. Having experienced the devastation of COVID, pandemics are now a massive concern for most of the world. While the news of recent monkeypox outbreak has sparked fear among many West Australians, WA's leading doctor has a different opinion. Dr. Andrew Miller joins us exclusively this week for a special Q&A. Dr. Miller, thanks for joining us. In regards to the monkeypox outbreak, what are we looking at this point in time?
Well, monkeypox, unfortunately, is a pest of a disease that does spread fairly easily, and it does spread through the airborne route, as does smallpox and the other similar viruses. And the reason why it's started to spread now, of course, is that we don't have immunisation, since people a bit younger than me onwards didn't get immunised for smallpox, so they don't have the cross immunity to monkeypox. So it's starting to spread easily through those populations where they're in close contact. Now, it's similar to COVID in that it doesn't usually cause severe disease, but it certainly can cause severe disease and death in some people.
From a Western Australian perspective, should we be concerned about this?
Well, what we've learned from COVID, of course, is that we're connected to the rest of the world now. It doesn't matter how far away you are. There are thousands of people coming and going from the state every day. And so any disease that's spreading between humans anywhere in the world will get here before too long. And we know that it's in Australia already. So people don't need to be alarmed about this, but they do need to be have it on their radar and understand that we may need to get to a stage where we're being a lot more aware of it than we are now if it starts to spread quickly in the community.
Is our health system ready for monkeypox, and is the public well prepared?
Well, the public health system is aware of the threat and they're monitoring it and watching it carefully, particularly the spread in Australia at the moment. And as we know, with exponential spread, these things can start out very small and grow into a big fire. So hopefully it'll be able to be kept under control. One advantage that you do have with this disease is that immunisation can occur after exposure and be quite effective because it has a long latency period. And so being cognizant of perhaps the need for a supply of vaccine will be an important part of the health department's preparations. Well, I think the public is as well prepared as it needs to be right now. It has enough to worry about with other things going on, ongoing COVID and coming into a heavy influenza season where we're now obviously encouraging people to take advantage of the free flu vaccination during June. I don't think that people need to be anything other than just aware that this is another disease that spreads between humans that's out there at the moment.
Well, I still got you here. The mandatory work jab mandate will be dropped next week. What's your take on this?
Well, there's no doubt that vaccine mandates have gotten us to where we are with our very high level of vaccine coverage. We know that over time that will start to wane and that not everybody's had their third dose vaccine. And so we will need to revisit this in the future, and it might be okay, as with mask mandates and other public health measures, to relax them from time to time. But people need to understand that as the situation changes, as the virus evolves, which it will do, then we may need to revisit some of these mandates, which in the end, they sound harsher than they are. It's simply a matter of understanding that you live as part of a community, and part of protecting the community is your responsibility to yourself, your family and your workmates to take advantage of these very freely available and safe vaccines. So I think that we will come back to consideration of checking what people's vaccine status is once we see that this pandemic is far from over.
Dr. Miller, thanks for your time this week.
Great to talk to you, thanks.
Newly elected Labor Prime Minister Anthony Albanese arrived in Perth today to say thank you to Western Australian voters.
The PM has brushed over concerns that only one of WA's federal ministers will be in the cabinet compared to 4 in the previous Morrison government. Here's Peter Kennedy.
The change of government has gone relatively smoothly, with the new ministry facing the task of settling in before Parliament resumes in July. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is in Perth today and soothing concerns of low representation for WA in his ministry compared to, for instance, the Morrison government.
We will have, in the next year as well, I can confirm, and we'll have dates soon for a Cabinet meeting in Perth, but also a Cabinet meeting in Port Hedland over the next 12 months. I want to make sure that we continue to engage with West Australians. I always enjoy my time here. It's an important part of the nation, and indeed during the pandemic, the success of Western Australia in keeping our economy going was absolutely vital.
Important for WA, however, is that the member for Brand, Madeleine King, is to be the new Minister for Resources. However, she loses the trade portfolio she had in opposition to the South Australian Labor power broker Don Farrell. WA has been shortchanged in the ministry, with only Mrs King in the Cabinet and Matt Keogh and Anne Ali in the Outer Ministry, while Patrick Gorman is an Assistant Minister. But given the state's key role in delivering government for Labor, a stronger presence is warranted. The WA representation is a far cry from the Hawke-Keating days when Kim Beazley, John Dawkins, Peter Walsh and Peter Cook were senior ministers and considered very heavy hitters. But on the government side, though, this week, new Treasurer Jim Chalmers has opened the Treasurer's Manual and moved quickly to lower expectations, predictably saying the finances are in much worse shape than could be imagined. Well, what a surprise that is. So be ready for many expensive election promises to be put on the back burner. The Liberals and Nationals, on the other hand, they'll be feeling their way under new leadership. The Liberals especially will find it tough, with the independent Teal women members filling a number of what were considered blue ribbon seats. And that includes, of course, the new member for Curtin, Kate Cheney. There's no shortage of challenges for Mr Albanese: rising cost of living and interest rates, sky-high petrol and energy prices, and also delivering on wage rises and aged and child care promises, let alone mapping out a strategy for climate change. The new government has plenty on its plate and expectations are high. Peter Kennedy, WAMN News.
Authorities are clamping down on childcare centres putting children at risk of hazards, following incidents leaving children with horrific burns. Operators are warned they face heavy penalties if they're not compliant or put children in danger. Nelson Liu reports.
Esther Cheney remembers the moment she was injured as a young child, a horrific burns accident that changed her life.
So when I was 4, I fell back into a campfire and my left hand went into the coals, which meant that when I pulled it off, lots of my skin ripped off on the coals.
The ordeal resulted in extensive hospital treatment for her injuries throughout her childhood.
I've had 12 operations, and most of them have been skin grafts, like cuts and laser treatments, which is all designed to give my hand room to grow.
Now 18 years old, Esther has fully recovered, but the risk of burns to children continues while they're looked after by childcare centres.
Childcare centres should be places of happiness and learning and safety, but in fact too often there are accidents and they can have really terrible consequences.
In the past year, an 11-month-old boy suffered burns to his right arm after leaning on a bucket of boiling hot water on the floor at a childcare centre. A 16-month-old boy was also significantly injured after hot tea in a travel mug spilt on him, while a 5-year-old girl suffered serious burns during a Play-Doh making activity. The childcare operators involved in the 3 burns incidents were prosecuted with fines of more than $25,000 each. The state government says it's a warning to improve safety around children. The Department of Communities is cracking down on daycare centres, with spot checks to ensure centres are compliant and staff are trained. They face fines of up to $50,000 and suspension of services if they're bound to have risk safety.
That's not only for accidents that have happened, but accidents that could have happened as well.
And with June Burns Awareness Month, experts say there are ways to keep children safe and treat injuries.
Clean, cool running water between 15 and 18 degrees for 20 minutes is most effective within the first hour of burn injury.
But we just need to raise awareness of simple things people can do, whether they're in a childcare centre or a home, to prevent things.
Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
WA have relaxed public health and safety measures, with the McGowan government claiming a soft landing has been a success. From this week, unjabbed returning Australians and permanent residents will no longer need to quarantine for 7 days, ending its weekly cap of 70 arrivals. Meanwhile, from next Friday, WA's mandatory jab policy will only apply to workforces working with vulnerable people, including healthcare, residential aged care and disability settings. The state government says the decision is due to WA's high third dose jab rate, currently at 81.8%.
New e-vehicles are set to be trialled in a bid to support frontline policing in WA. The high-powered Hyundai Ioniq 5 electric vehicle and Toyota Mirai hydrogen fuel cell car have been fitted out for WA Police to be used in metropolitan Perth, Geraldton and Bunbury. The trial will last 9 months, and WA Police say it's designed to boost environmentally friendly policing for the future.
A leading property group has warned houses in Perth could cost as much as they do in Brisbane in 3 years. Property Club said the median house price in Perth would meet Brisbane's $770,000 cost by 2025, with a rising population and lag in construction expected to lift prices. President Kevin Young says supply needs to increase to make homes affordable.
The only way it can be more affordable, and the property club keeps predicting and preaching this to politicians, don't listen, we just simply need more supply. We need more investors into the market, which creates more opportunities for tenants to choose where they come. When we started the club 27 years ago, the property club were getting 7% rent returns because there wasn't a lot of choice for the tenants. We became the biggest in that space, progressively bring more and more investors into the market, more and more properties into the market, more and more rental properties into the market. And we've seen the rent returns now drop down to sub 5%, simply because there's that more choice.
Several Western Australian children who had qualified for the DEX Robotics World Championship 2022 competition in the USA have had their dreams crushed due to unforeseen circumstances. Engineering for Kids Australia, a company that provides a variety of STEM-based education opportunities for children, has recently run a coding and robotics program among their usual variety of STEM classes. Although 5 teams qualified to participate in the Robotics Championships held in Texas this May, visas and cost issues have prevented the children from going to the competition. Dr. Ma is now busy organising a special internal robotics competition for the disappointed junior engineers to test their skills this coming Monday.
And we want to see that these kids, they had so much potential, and from the competition the kids can see how much they improved since the last state championship, since the national championship, so they can see how much they improved and they can compare the previous results.
Italians in WA have a reason to kick up their heels this week, celebrating the day Italy becomes a republic. WA Italians joined the celebration this week in an event held in Inglewood, commemorating a referendum to decide the form of government after World War II. Multicultural Services Centre WA Executive Director Ramda Sankaran says the day is more significant now with the election of an Australian Prime Minister with an Italian background.
Well, it's important for them not only for the celebration of the Italian Republican Day, but it's an out for them. They've been housebound because of COVID. This is a time where they get out and sing and dance. So especially the oldies, this is an outlet for them. You know, we've come from interning Italian Australians to electing a Prime Minister whose father is of Italian background, or father is Italian. So, you know, you really have a Prime Minister of Italian heritage, something that we really should be celebrating.
Speaking of Italy, have you ever been there, Ivan?
I have, quite a few days in fact, 8 days in a row. You got Venice, Florence, Rome Naples, and then Pompeii. Now, I know that you've lived near Milan for a year or so.
I did. It was very beautiful and I was very lucky.
I tell you what, I wish I'd been there, but I'll have to try it one day when I have time. And now, here's AMA WA President Dr. Mark Duncan-Smith with his weekly COVID-19 update and medical commentary.
Hello everyone out there and welcome, and thank you for tuning in. We are certainly past what was a McGowan government-induced second peak of COVID. We were quite happily going along at about 6,000 to 8,000 cases a day, 3-day rolling average back in April. The McGowan government on April 29th reduced the mask mandate and restrictions, and we jumped up double that amount of new cases to 12 to 16,000 cases a day. Fortunately, the dire predictions of the McGowan government of 20 to 25,000 cases a day did not come to fruition. And as a result of that, fortunately, our medical system did not get completely smashed, as it could have if those dire predictions in the McGowan government had actually occurred. What's happened over the last 1 to 2 weeks is we've seen a passing of that second peak, and our rolling 3-day average is now back down to where it was in April. So we're in about the 6,000 to 8,000 cases a day, and certainly our hospital system is coping with that. Although we are running at about 300 cases a day still in hospital, but I expect that to start to decline in a week or two, as basically hospitalisations usually follow a week or two after the new cases, which clearly have dropped. The McGowan government has moved in early June to reduce the mandatory vaccination requirements. And this is a reasonable move at this stage, especially given that over 80% of our population is boosted. This really is an issue related to a small sector of society nowadays. And I think the general message out there is very clear, is that boosting gives you significant protection against Omicron disease, and in fact gives you 98% protection against severe disease. And if there's any doubt about this, we all just need to look at what happened in America, where there wasn't much in the way of vaccine uptake, at least initially. And it's bizarre to think about this, but 1 in 300 Americans are now dead from COVID. So that gives you an idea of what can happen in a society that doesn't have good vaccination. And certainly Western Australians are to be congratulated for getting out of their chairs and going out and getting vaccinated. And it's basically put us in good stead and protected our medical system. So to all of you out there, thank you for doing that. Keep in mind that the flu season is just around the corner. I had my flu vaccine on Monday. Flu can be a very nasty disease. It is expected it will be a nasty season this year because we haven't had really a season for the last two years. So if in doubt, if you're vulnerable, and you go and get your flu shot as well. Thanks very much for your attention and take care.
That's Dr. Mark Duncan-Smith, and now here's Leo with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thanks guys. Tonight on 6 News, the new Attorney General's Department begins advertising for roles for a National Anti-Corruption Commission task force, one of Labor's key election promises. But what's happening with one of their other promises about banning live sheep exports? Plus, is the gas crisis worse than you think? Fears thousands could lose their jobs with manufacturers facing massive increases in gas prices that could force them to shut their doors. And pleas from US lawmakers, as well as President Joe Biden, to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines tonight continue following not only the Texas school shooting but another mass shooting, this time at a clinic in Oklahoma. You can see full details on those stories and plenty more by heading to our website 6newsau.com. For now though guys, it's back to you.
Thanks, Leo, and that's our weekly news and current affairs. We had the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, we wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.